Manhunt, you play as James Earl Cash, a man sentenced to death by lethal injection for unknown reasons. But as if given a second chance, Cash wakes up to a mysterious voice telling him to do exactly as he says to survive. As Cash exits the dark room, he must slaughter as many gang members as possible for a snuff film being recorded, and Cash is the star. When I think of Western game studios, I think of 5 major players: Bungie, pre-Microsoft departure, id Software, Bethesda Games, Eidos Interactive, and Rockstar Games. Growing up, I never really cared for Rockstar. I wasn't ever allowed to play GTA as a kid, and aside from watching my brother play like LA Noire as a teen, I never found many of their games enthralling until I found out about Manhunt. Manhunt and Manhunt 2 have sent me on a journey. Since beating Manhunt again, I've started to play Grand Theft Auto, exploring Liberty City, Vice City, and San Andreas, playing Bully, and looking forward to trying Red Dead Redemption when it goes on sale. Rockstar has a way of making games that click. The characters don't even have to be extremely developed because the overarching narrative makes up for it. One of my favorite examples aside from Cash from Manhunt is Claude from GTA 3, my favorite Rockstar protagonist for one major reason: his silence. A lot of people look at Claude as a failed or uninteresting protag because he just kind of waltzes into a building, gets told what to do, then does it. But that's precisely what makes him interesting. Unlike most GTA protagonists, Claude's determination to get revenge and money is unwavering, and in many ways, I feel if most of us were in his position, we'd do the same. A lot of people seem to ignore the line when Claude's ex, Catalina, calls him small time before shooting him. Claude's motivation is to get revenge in more than just taking her life. He wants to become big time before killing her, in a way getting revenge on both insult and injury. This kind of writing isn't mind-blowing, but it's relatable, and I'm a fan. In many ways, Rockstar did this in Manhunt with Cash. Unlike Danny/Leo from Manhunt 2, much of Cash's, hell, all of Cash's backstory is left up to the imagination, and the only reason we hope he survives, outside being the player character, is because compared to the monsters he's killing, he doesn't seem that bad. But at the same time, we don't know how truly bad he is, and because of that, Manhunt becomes a game with no hero, a game with confusing morality, and forever sitting in a state of moral grays. We hide in the shadows, slowly contemplating how we're going to murder someone with their back turned. When we get close, our heart rate increases, and upon executing them, we get mad because we couldn't kill them better. I remember the first time I played Manhunt, I asked myself if the game was any good for me to be playing. In a way, I felt kind of dirty. We aren't following a hero forced to survive against violent gang members. We're playing as a killer, murdering killers. There's no resolution, no forgiveness, only wrath. With that being said, this game is not as horrible as it was made out to be. And really only becomes introspective like that and morally gray when looked under a microscope, because in reality, Cash was likely a hitman or enforcer who got caught, since murder is the only crime that would get you the death penalty. When you take into consideration that Cash has probably only killed people just as undeserving of life as he is prior to the game, then look at the fact that he's being forced to kill violent, racist psychopaths, some of which being pedophiles. Those moral grays start to fade away. In some way, Cash probably sees this as a chance to right the wrongs he did in his past, as if killing the scum he was surrounded by and lowering crime rate makes up for what he did. A dark justice in a way that only someone like Cash could carry out. Cash's story culminates when the mysterious voice captures his family, forcing Cash to try and save them without being detected, or they'll be killed, only to reveal in the next scene that despite Cash saving them, they were murdered anyway, and recorded for presumably the snuff film. At this point, Cash has overstayed his welcome and is led into multiple traps to try and kill him. The final trap being the white rabbit, of which in the script of the film was supposed to be Cash's executioner. Escaping the asylum and killing one of the leaders of the gangs in a claustrophobic apartment, Cash is picked up by the reporter who reported on his execution, revealing that the mysterious voice that's been talking to us is failed Vinewood director Lionel Starkweather, who now operates a snuff film ring outside his giant mansion. Cash then has to guide the reporter to her apartment containing crucial evidence exposing Starkweather, but it's being guarded by corrupt cops at every corner. After she grabs her stuff, Cash parts ways and tracks down Starkweather, culminating in him being captured and brought to Starkweather's mansion, where he has to find a way in and kill him. Before Cash can kill Starkweather though, he gets ambushed by Pigsy, the former star of one of Starkweather's films, now stripped of all humanity and completely insane. After conquering Pigsy though, Cash takes out the final Cerberus mercs, breaks into Starkweather's office, and slaughters him once and for all.
Cash, I made you!
Manhunt is a stealth game, and as such, you'll want to hide in shadows and rarely engage in hand-to-hand combat, as it's super clunky and extremely hard even to run away from like one gang member that has their eyes on you. I've seen some people complain about this game's controls, but honestly, they feel pretty modern. I could try to explain it here, but I think it's better experience because they're actually pretty intuitive for the time. Gameplay revolves around three main things though: sneaking, executions, hand-to-hand combat, and gunplay. To keep it in order, let's start with sneaking. Manhunt stealth is pretty basic. Hide in shadows to stay undetected, walk slowly so you don't alert the guards, and use throwable items to draw out hunters. This simplicity is its strong suit. Sure, you have extremely detailed games like Metal Gear Solid where Snake's ball sweat will alert a guard, but it's something about Manhunt's simplicity that inspires mastery for me, because it's very basic and this reflects in the game. For instance, when enemies walk right past Cash purely because he's in a slightly darker spot than they are. But once again, I feel this complements the game's mission structure. Simple levels, simple stealth, and a simple goal equals massive replayability and a great feeling of satisfaction because of its difficulty. Rarely does a death feel undeserved because of its tactile design. You realize where you messed up, the exact button press that got you killed, so frustration, while common, isn't at the game but at your own decisions. Executions though are probably the most memorable aspect of the Manhunt titles. Gruesome, disgusting, and ultra-violent. The executions are probably both the most satisfying but disturbing gameplay mechanic in the series. It's super simple to execute. Wait until an enemy has their back turned to you, then slowly creep up behind them, and once Cash's stance changes, begin holding down the attack button. Gray arrows mean the execution is the quickest and least gruesome takedown. Yellow is more violent and takes a little bit more time, and red is ultra-violent and sometimes hard to watch. It's more of a risk too, as it takes longer, and that allows more time for other gang members to like run up if they hear a sound or see you, but it's a trade-off because the higher like attack you do, the higher style ranking you get at the end of the mission, and for some of like the concept art and stuff, you need a higher mission ranking. The hand-to-hand combat is extremely clunky. It makes sense as you really aren't meant to engage with enemies one-on-one like this, and it's only forced like twice in the game. Sometimes you'll end up getting into a fist fight though, and here you have a few options. You have access to fast light attacks and slower heavy attacks. If you walk backwards, Cash will block, and pressing both attack buttons will have Cash grab the enemy and start like wailing on them, and he does like a bunch of damage that way, but they can break away, so it's better to just kind of like mix between light and heavy attacks. The gunplay though is actually pretty good. It surprised me when I first tried it. Given it being an early Rockstar game, I was expecting stiff, janky free aim, but I was pleasantly surprised that it's smooth. You can aim, fire, and reload like a modern shooter, and you have access to pistols, shotguns, assault rifles, and sniper rifles. Capping scum with a pistol and shotgun never gets old, and lining up a headshot with a sniper rifle is just as fun. It does break the game a bit, but the game does forcefully take your guns occasionally to get back to like the stealthy gameplay, but it does kind of break the game because if you can get the jump on somebody, they're pretty much just cooked. Manhunt is such an interesting game when looked under a magnifying glass. It's so fun, and yet it makes you feel like maybe you shouldn't be having fun. Asking yourself the question, why am I even playing this? It's gritty, edgy, grungy, and violent, and yet I and many others still enjoy this bleak masterpiece. Manhunt 2 took the bones of Manhunt 1 and built upon it to make something deeper and more narratively dense. But while the interesting character studies are fun, Manhunt 1's silence and mystery is what makes it deeply intriguing and introspective. If you ever want to give this game a try, I highly recommend it, as I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. Thanks for watching.